It sounds like they're coming back in. We just made it. Let's just hope there's not a sidebar right away, but I'll leave this running as I can hear them inside. Hey, Tony, thanks for ordering.
This court is back in session. You may be seated.
And we're back in session.
All right, Mr. Jackson, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sergeant, you had an opportunity, obviously, you read them, so now you've familiarized yourself with that series of text messages that you received from Brian Higgins, correct?
Yes.
Would you, I'm going to ask you the same question again. Would you consider those text messages as you reviewed them when you received them from Brian Higgins as being flirtatious or romantic in nature?
I would not categorize them to that extent. Certain parts of it might be, but the total conversation, if you want my opinion, I can provide you with it.
Was there some flirtation in the text messages that you noted?
There are terms that I used. You're hot, witty, stuff like that. You know, talking about banging and hooking up.
What word would you use to describe them if not flirtatious?
The totality of the conversation?
Sure. Let's start there.
My opinion is that it's a angry girlfriend trying to set up a hookup to her John.
To her jump?
To her John.
To her John.
Yeah.
Would you consider the responses from Brian Higgins to be flirtatious in nature?
There are conversation parts that are enticing, maybe a little of advances, but the totality of, to put a label on the whole thing, my opinion is that she's trying to get revenge.
Get revenge?
Yes, get revenge.
On John?
Yeah.
For what happened on New Year's Eve?
Yes.
Okay. When you say revenge, you don't mean physical revenge.
Well, emotional revenge. She's trying to hook up with Higgins and then hurt John by cheating on him.
And in fact, you did note that John O'Keefe was not privy to these text messages. Right? Objection.
I'll allow that. Do you know that?
I do not, Your Honor, no.
He's not on these texts, is he?
I don't know if their accounts are synced at this point. I don't know if he's seen them. I don't know.
He's not. His phone. You know what his phone number is. You guys got his phone, right?
We do have his device, yes.
Do you have any evidence that his account is somehow citing no evidence synced with Beverly's account?
Not from his device, no, but he could have seen the text message.
Okay, so there's no evidence that he was synced. His account was synced with anything, correct?
I'm sorry, can you repeat?
There's no evidence.
You were facing the other way. I didn't hear.
There's no evidence that his account was synced with anything.
Not his device that we have, no.
And you don't have, as you sit here, you don't have any evidence whatsoever that he saw any of those text messages, correct?
We don't have that, but I do not know.
Okay. So as you sit here, my question is very simple. Do you have evidence, affirmative evidence, that John O'Keefe ever saw these text messages?
I do not have evidence that he saw them,
Okay.
no.
So would you agree that the text messages show a romantic interest, for whatever motivation, a romantic interest from Brian Higgins toward Ms. Reed?
You have to ask that differently.
In your mind, as you read the text messages, did you determine in your head that there was a romantic interest by Brian Higgins toward Karen Reed?
In my mind, I saw the text messages for what they were, initiated by Karen Reed, and began a text message conversation with Brian Higgins.
And Brian Higgins was responsive to those text messages, correct?
They did communicate back and forth.
He was responsive to the overtures that Ms. Reed made toward him, correct?
Overtures.
Suggestions. let's get together for a drink, come over to my house, I'll come over to your house, things of that nature. Those went back and forth between the two, correct?
Yes, they were back and forth. Yes.
And did you determine that there was an interest by Brian Higgins in Karen Reed?
I read that he repeatedly asked her, what's her plan, what's her goal, what's her interest, what's her intent.
Did that show you an interest on his part in her?
I think at one point he said he was confused, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, or what's the term he used? He was unsure what she wanted.
He called her hot.
He did, yes.
He called her witty.
Right from the rip, yes.
He said he wanted to spend time with her.
Spend time, yes, yeah.
He was interested in going over to her house.
Yes,
He was interested in her possibly coming over to his house.
yes,
He told her that he thought she was hot, his words, from the jump, correct?
from the jump, yeah.
How did you interpret that?
From the jump, I would interpret it as right from the beginning, maybe the first time they saw each other, laid eyes on each other. I mean,
As a matter of fact, he basically said that, didn't he? In the text message, from the first time I saw you, I thought you were hot.
yes.
He constantly was using phrases, to use your words, phrases interested in knowing how she felt about him, correct?
Objection. Sustained. You have to ask it differently, Mr. Jones.
Did you interpret any of his text messages as Brian Higgins being interested in knowing how she felt, what she was thinking about him?
Objection. Ask it again.
When you first saw these text messages and you reviewed them, did you interpret those text messages in your mind? That's what I'm interested in your mind, as Brian Higgins being interested in knowing how Karen Reed felt about it.
I believe his statement indicates that he was interested in seeing what her interest was, what her intention were, and questioning the fact that she's dating live-in boyfriend with his buddy.
He used the word ghost several times, correct?
I do recall reading the word ghost.
How did you interpret that word?
Objection. I'll allow it.
I interpreted ghost in the common slang terminology as to abandon conversation, stop communicating.
He indicated that 2 different times in the text string, correct?
I know I read the text messages, by reading them out loud to a room full of people, I might not have remembered how many times the term ghost came through.
Fair
I
enough.
was concentrating more on the reading, not of the comprehension of each word.
Fair enough. But you did note that he used that term in his text messages to her, correct?
I think I recall at least once that the term ghost was present in the communication.
Did you interpret that? I'm looking for what was in your mind. Did you interpret that, the use of that word by Brian Higgins, as showing some level of frustration at her abandonment of the conversation?
No, I did not.
Not at
No,
all?
no.
Have you ever heard the phrase, "you ghosted me"?
Yes.
How do you interpret that phrase, just in general?
I've heard it communicated between other people. I've never used the term ghosted. I think it's a little after my time in communicating with others, but I take it as you stopped responding to my text messages.
Do you take that, do you interpret that, or did you interpret that as a positive or a negative comment? You ghosted me.
I interpret it as a matter of fact, like you stopped talking to me. I never thought about it in a positive or negative connotation. I never gave it any thought.
As you sit here now, if you do give it thought, would you put a positive or a negative connotation on the phrase, you ghosted me?
Objection.
You're aware that based on the text messages that we just saw, there was a series of text messages that went back and forth starting in mid-January and basically ending around January 23rd, correct?
This chain of text messages began in January 12th and ended January 29th.
Right. I'm going to get to the 29th, but the back and forth ended on January 23rd, did it not?
I don't recall specifically. I can leaf through it and tell you what it is. I know I read the dates out loud, and again, I was concentrating on reading.
Do you have the document in front of you?
I do.
Could you turn to the last page?
Yes, sir.
I believe it's the last page. It may be the second to the last page or something. Do you see an entry on January 23rd, 2022, a text message from Brian Higgins, thought you were all set?
Yes.
And Ms. Reed responded with talking, question mark, no, period, correct?
That is her response.
Mr. Higgins then responds, with 4 M's behind the H, correct?
That's correct.
And then he responds again. By the way, did Ms. Reed respond to the
No, she did not.
And then he follows up with, you sure, with no punctuation, correct?
That's correct.
Did Ms. Reed respond to you're sure?
She did not.
The next text is on January 29th at 11:32 p.m., correct? I'm sorry, January 28th at 11:32 p.m. Is that right?
Yes, it is.
Is that from Ms. Reed or from Mr. Higgins?
At 11:32 p.m. on Friday, January 28th, it is from Mr. Higgins.
That's all I ask. And now, can you tell the jurors what that text is? And then the next text immediately after it.
Well,
So between January 23rd and January 28th, would you describe Ms. Reed's side of the conversation as having ghosted Mr. Higgins?
no, she initiates the conversation. You had me read the second text message in the chain.
Between January January 23rd, when that last text message was sent by Brian Higgins, until January 28th at 11:32, would you describe that as Ms. Reed having ghosted Mr. Higgins for those 5 days?
Strictly looking at the text message communications and not knowing whether they.
Correct. I'm not asking you to speculate. I know there's other stuff you want to say. I'm asking you just to read, just to answer the question I've asked. Based on the text that are in front of you, Sergeant Bukhenik, does it appear that Ms. Reed ghosted, as you define the term, Mr. Higgins, from January 23rd until January 28th?
One could read into that in that manner, yeah.
And then on January 28th, Sergeant Bukhenik, when Brian Higgins sends, well, did Ms. Reed respond?
No, she did not. They were together at the same location.
Did she respond to the text?
On that day?
Correct.
Not on a text message, no.
You said they were together. That means that Brian Higgins was together in the same room with Ms. Reed when he sent his text, correct?
Yes.
And she ignored it, didn't she? You also received from Mr. Higgins certain text messages between him, Mr. Higgins, and John O'Keefe himself, correct?
Yes, we did.
And one of those text messages, one of the last text messages that they exchanged was, as a matter of fact, the last text message that was exchanged was Brian Higgins at 12:20 a.m. on January 29th, 2022, texting Mr. O'Keefe, "You coming here?" with 3 question marks, correct?
I would have to take a look at the document. I don't have a memory of it specifically. I know I reviewed it, but I don't have a memory of the time and content.
May I approach you, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. No worries. Based on this extraction, I cannot definitively say that this text message was sent on January 29th because of the file source time and and the JPEG being so small. I can't testify to that, sir.
May I approach?
Yes.
Your Honor, Mr. Brennan has kindly offered to stipulate that the "you coming here" text was sent. I would offer the following stipulation: that "you coming here" text was sent on January 29th at 12:20 a.m. from Brian Higgins to John O'Keefe's phone. Quote, "You coming here?" 3 question marks following.
What was the time?
I'm good. 12:20 a.m. May we enter that stipulation with the court's permission?
Sure. So, jurors, you've heard that the lawyers agree that that fact is true.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sergeant. So you were aware of the timeline on or about January 29th when, first of all, Karen Reed had not responded to a text message from January 23rd throughout January 28th and into January 29th. Sorry, throughout January 28th by 11:32 p.m. or so. She just not responded. Correct?
So the text message that she sent to Brian Higgins, the last time she sent a text message was on the 23rd.
And he responded with several text messages to which she did not respond on January 23rd. Correct?
I believe she sent 2 and he said 3, I believe.
So the answer is yes. There was a text message that he sent to which she did not respond. Is that right? On the 23rd.
He was the last one to send a text message on the 23rd.
That was following multiple text messages back and forth between the two of them, spanning a couple of weeks. Correct?
Yes.
Then, on January 28th, 2022, Brian Higgins is at the Waterfall Bar and Grill after 11:30 p.m., correct?
He was.
Karen Reed then walks into that same Waterfall Bar and Grill, accompanied by her boyfriend, John O'Keefe, correct?
They did.
Brian Higgins then texted Karen Reed, who's standing in the room. Well, correct?
Correct.
Karen Reed ignored that text, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Karen Reed did not respond to that text.
There's no text.
Brian Higgins then, a little less than an hour later, texts John directly, "You coming here?" with 3 question marks, correct?
Correct. It's been stipulated.
That is an accurate timeline of the events that we've just talked about, correct?
Yes, sir.
You're also aware of a call. Your investigation revealed a call between Brian Higgins and Brian Albert at 2:22 a.m. on the 29th, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did your investigation reveal a call between between Brian Higgins and Brian Albert at 2:22 a.m.?
Objection.
Sustained.
May we approach, Your Honor?
Okay.
Okay, so this is sidebar 6. This is going to be painful this afternoon if this is how this is going to be. I wonder what the rebuttal's going to be like. Yeah. Bad printouts again. So this is going to be text supposedly from Brian Higgins in John O'Keefe, if I heard correctly. Can somebody help me out here? Because I'm pretty sure that's what they said, but I want to be sure. I know. It's terrible. Like they're all up there at the judge's bench. Why won't you just let me go anywhere I want with this cross? Oh, exactly. Because I hear what you say, Liam. I don't know where this is going, but they're trying to. I understand because of third-party culprit, they want to make it as if there was a reason for John O'Keefe to be attacked in the house. You remember the defense's theory is that he did go into the house and he was beat up there. Apparently, from where this is going, by Higgins and Brian Albert, a friend of Higgins, was helping to cover it up. And Jen McCabe, because she's related to Brian Albert, well, she just helped too. Yeah, even though she's very good friends with John O'Keefe and she liked Karen Reed and she was friends with everybody. Yeah, it just seems reasonable that everybody would conspire to cover up this. But I don't get it. Those text messages do look like there was flirting going on. Does look like they hooked up, but it does look like it was initiated by Karen Reed. And all along, I see responding texts from Brian Higgins, kind of knowing what she's up to, and then kind of just felt her out and kind of called her out on it several times. And he is just not acting like a forlorn puppy or somebody who's madly obsessed with her. Like, it's just like, okay, it is what it is, and then there were plenty of times where the conversations just dropped. It doesn't seem like he was that concerned with the fact that it dropped. He wasn't obsessive about it. Not like Karen was in John's texts, Just saying, it doesn't make much sense to me where they're going with this. I think it makes her look worse. So I don't know why they're taking the risk. I don't think it looks good for Karen Reed, actually. To me, it seems like all ego. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know which ring camera you mean. Do you mean at the Albert's home? Because they're apparently talking about getting beat up at 34 Fairfield. And the ring camera footages that we've seen are all been from John O'Keefe's house. I don't recall seeing any from Fairfield or Fairview, whatever the name of that street is. Exactly, Liam. What if Karen did enter the house with them? It doesn't make sense. Also, the timing. There wasn't enough time between when Karen dropped him off and when his phone stopped reacting. Like, they would have had to clobber him as soon as he walked through the door. It doesn't make any sense. And that was even iffy that he made it to the door. No one saw him enter. And how are they going to get all of those people to lie? Everybody who was there. It's not just Jen McCabe and Brian Albert and Brian Higgins. There's a whole bunch of other people involved of all different ages and all different relations to everybody. People that were guests of guests. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. But they only need reasonable doubt, right? Well, we'll talk about reasonable doubt later. All right, they're back. I'm muting.
Sure.
Sergeant Bukhenik, did you become aware during the course of your investigation, then I'll narrow the time frame, during the course of your investigation, that there were calls between Brian Higgins and Brian Albert at approximately 2:22 a.m. on the 29th?
During the course of my investigation, I was not aware of that. If you have a document that I can see, I can tell you if I've ever seen it before.
Did you seek to secure Brian Albert's cell phone to determine what calls he did and didn't make on
No.
January 29th or January 28th?
No, we did not.
Okay. In your experience, would a phone extraction, a cell phone extraction of Brian Albert's phone have revealed calls made and received in the time frame that we're talking about, the 28th and the 29th of January 2022?
If a phone is extracted, the records of phone calls being made and received would show those records.
You did receive information from Brian Higgins' phone, specifically the texts that he claimed he pulled off of his phone and gave to you, correct?
We received the text messages that I read today that Brian Higgins provided from his phone.
Did you seek to secure his actual phone for a forensic download or forensic mirror image to get the actual calls made and received or text messages made and received from his phone?
No, we did not.
At some point, this is just yes or no, at some point, did you become aware of a call between Brian Higgins and Brian Albert at 2:22 a.m. on the morning of the 29th? Just yes or no?
No.
As you sit here today, this is new information to you. Let me rephrase that. This is unknown information to you. You do not have any information about that?
Objection.
Sustain. We need a time frame, Mr. Jackson.
I realize that, Judge. That's why I'm asking it this way. As you sit here, are you aware of a phone call between Brian Albert and Brian Higgins at 2:22 a.m. on January 29th, 2022?
Look, you just shared that with me. I have no memory or record of seeing that it actually took place. I do not know.
Okay, so you've never heard that before. That was what I was getting to. You've never heard that before.
No.
Okay. You indicated that you did not seek to secure Brian Albert's phone to do a phone extraction at any time, correct?
We did not try to get Brian Albert's phone for any reason whatsoever.
Did you become aware during the course of your investigation that Brian Albert destroyed his phone?
I'd like to be seen. Objection.
Jurors, disregard that question. Go over to sidebar, please.
This line of I understand where he's trying to go with this. I mean, I'm sure you guys do. He's trying to say that you should have investigated more because then you would have found out that 14 people organized to hide the fact that John O'Keefe entered the house, got beat up within seconds, and then tossed back out in the snow. And then everybody knows about it. And they all did it to cover up because Brian Higgins wanted to keep seeing Karen and John was in the way. Like, what? Like, this is such a bizarre, like, I know it makes sense to the egomaniac sitting at the defense table, but it sure don't make any sense to me. And I'm sorry, I'm just going to call it the way I see it. This is all ego. This is all ego. Like, this doesn't make any sense to put this out here. It makes her look bad. It makes the defense look like, huh? I do agree that the investigation is not the best, okay? And they're going to point to the fact that he didn't secure the cell phones of everybody in the house, but however, they had broken taillight all around the body. Why would they think anything happened in the house? Obviously, the impact was outside of the house. All of the evidence that every officer saw when they arrived on scene said that the incident occurred outside of the house, out there on the edge of the property, not even related to it wasn't even until later that they found out that they were supposed to go inside the house. It's ridiculous. It's so much Agatha Christie in this theory. It's bizarre. In an alternate universe, it makes sense. But all of these just because there's the possibility of something and the what if of something, it doesn't actually, when you've got weight of evidence. And now people are trying to say because Proctor was fired that all of the evidence doesn't matter. Well, that's not true because it's in the case. It's been entered into evidence in front of the jury. If there was nothing to the evidence, it wouldn't make it this far. If it was so true that it was tainted somehow by Proctor or the investigators themselves, then several outside investigations that happened would have exposed that. And the defense could have used that to have all of this evidence tossed. But that isn't the case because none of those investigations, not a one, and I do believe there were three. There was Massachusetts State Police, there was the Canton Police Department by a third party, and there was the one, the Department of Justice through the FBI. Not once was anyone else implicated except Karen Reed. That's not something the defense wants to face. That's not something the people that think that Karen Reed is innocent want to face. It's up to the jury now to weigh the evidence. Speculation is not evidence. Theory without any evidence to back it up isn't really evidence. Let's see what the jury says. I mean, this is my argument out on X right now. People want to come at me because the investigation was flawed. Nobody is saying it wasn't. There were issues. There definitely were issues. But a lot of this evidence still stands as credible.
May I inquire?
Yes.
Thank you. Did you become aware of a call that was made by Brian Higgins at 1:35 a.m. while at Canton Police Department?
I am not aware of that, no.
So you did nothing in terms of investigating any phone call that Brian Higgins did or didn't make while at Canton PD on the night or the early morning hours of January 29th, 2022?
We never sought to get Brian Higgins' phone. He was not looked at as a individual that we would need to get his information for any reason at that point.
Even after you received and read all of those text messages between him and Karen Reed,
Correct.
and even after you became aware of the timeline that we just walked through, starting on January 23rd, going all the way into January 28th and into January 29th, you did nothing to investigate that.
We had the information that we had. We did not need to get his phone.
And the information that you had came from Brian Higgins himself, not from a forensic extraction, correct?
The extraction that Brian Higgins provided was a forensics extraction of his communications with Mr. O'Keefe and Karen Reed. We had Mr. O'Keefe's phone and we had Karen Reed's phone, so we can verify and confirm that those text message communications were accurate, unredacted, not deleted, and were true representation of what their communications consisted of.
And that was a representation made by whom?
The totality of it.
That was a representation made by whom? A person made that representation to you that it was fair and accurate. Who made that representation?
It wasn't a person, it was the extractions between the three devices.
Well, an extraction that you were handed on a device by someone, correct?
No, I said that we had all three devices. And as I told Mr. Higgins in our interview together, I said, Brian, we have those two devices.
Meaning
If you-
John's and Karen's.
Correct.
Okay.
If there's anything deleted or altered in any way, we will have proof of it. So please make sure that you understand the magnitude of this situation. We're investigating a homicide. It needs to be accurate, and it was.
And you trusted that coming from Brian Higgins rather than simply getting an extraction from his phone, correct? Yes.
I trusted him, yes, because we trust and verify. And after verifying, the extractions were correct.
And following that verification of the text messages, did that raise any suspicion in your mind about any possible motives Brian Higgins may have relative to John O'Keefe?
Suspicions of motives? Is that your question?
Correct.
No, the evidence spoke for itself. The honesty, cooperation of all the witnesses and corroborating, supporting facts spoke for themselves. So I was not suspicious of his motives. The conversation was documented over text message. Spoke for itself.
Supporting documentation, including a text message at 2:20 a.m., just minutes before John O'Keefe arrived at 34 Fairview from Brian Higgins, right? 12:20 a.m. That's one of the factors, right?
That's one of the factors that is part of the entire investigation, yes.
One of the other factors is John O'Keefe's body was found in the lawn at 34 Fairview, just feet from from the front door, side door, and the garage door. Correct?
That is when Mr. O'Keefe was found on the left side of the lawn, yes.
And one of the factors was you originally said that it appeared that it may be an incident involving a cocktail glass to the face. Initially, please.
Based on verbal reports, initially, that was a possibility. Again, it was before we spoke to
I realize
three.
it's before a lot of other things happened, but initially, that's what I'm asking about.
Yes, initially, it was a possibility.
And when you saw John O'Keefe at the hospital, that big contusion above his right eye, correct?
That is not correct.
A big egg just above his right eye?
That is not correct.
You did not see that?
His eyelids were swollen, not above his eye. And it wasn't a contusion.
Two different paramedics said that they saw what they described as an egg above his right eye. Well, let me ask you differently. Did you speak to any of the paramedics?
Yes.
Did they describe an egg above his right eye?
I'd have to see a report to actually be described as an egg above his right eye.
Did you notice a laceration at his right eye?
His right eyelid did have a tiny, tiny laceration.
Did you see a small laceration in his nostril on his nose?
A tiny, tiny laceration, yes.
You noted that he didn't have any broken bones or fractures other than to his skull?
I did not know that. I didn't conduct x-rays or conduct the autopsy. I'm not a medical professional.
You didn't ask the doctors at the time you went and visited him and saw him in the hospital whether or not he had broken bones or fractures?
I don't believe they reported that.
And another factor that you considered was the fact that in the early morning hours of January 29th, 2022, around 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 8 a.m., there were no taillight pieces found at that location. Zero. Did you consider that?
At what point?
On January 29th, between say 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 9 a.m. Consider that?
Once we learned that there was damage to the defendant's right rear taillight,
Sergeant, I'm
I could only consider at that point because I didn't know what I didn't know.
Right.
We don't know. We don't know. We work with the evidence that's presented and we develop the investigation.
And the evidence that was presented at that time, Sergeant, was a leaf blower was used to search the area, the exact area that you've described for this jury as being the area around fire hydrant, flagpole, where John's body was, and no taillight material was found at all in the first searches. You're aware of that, yes or no?
Yes.
As a matter of fact, you're also aware that no taillight material was found until after that SUV was in Massachusetts State Police custody and sitting at the Sally Port in Cont. Correct?
I believe the first taillight piece was found after it was in our custody. I don't know the exact time. I'd have to see it.
When you talked to Brian Higgins, did you ask Brian Higgins about potentially seeing John's body when he left 34 Fairview and headed over to Canton PD?
Yes, I did.
You knew that at that time, say 1 o'clock, 1:30 in the morning, there was about 0.2 of an inch of dusting of snow, correct? Very light.
At that point in time, there was a coating. I cannot speak to the amount of snow that was on the ground.
But Brian Higgins told you in that interview that he didn't see the body because it was hidden by a snowbank.
Objection.
Did he say that to you?
I don't have a memory of that, Your Honor.
May I approach you, Your Honor?
Yes.
Take a look at page 3, the highlighted portion, if you wouldn't mind. May I approach?
Yes.
Does that refresh your recollection that Brian Higgins said something about a snowbank at the time when he left 34 Fairview?
He stated the reason he did not pay attention to the grass is he was concerned with his snowplow on his vehicle and was not paying attention to anything over the snowbank, just with the plow in front of him as he operated the vehicle.
And of course, you knew at the time, as a detective and an investigator, you knew at the time that with a dusting of snow, there is no snowbank. Right.
He mentioned plowing the driveway for the Alberts when he arrived. So there might have been coating and he was just plowing it and then creating a line. I cannot speak to how much snow was actually being plowed with the dusting that was on the ground. So there might have been a small snowbank. Again, he was referencing it. He was not paying attention to anything behind the snowbank. So behind it.
Snowbank being in the lawn. Actually, he said the lawn.
Yeah, he's,
Sorry. He talked about the snowbank being in the lawn, not the driveway, correct? That's how he described it.
he said he was not paying attention anything past the snowbank being the lawn.
And did not pay too much attention to the lawn area behind the snowbank, correct?
Right, off to that area. Right.
Did that raise any suspicions in your mind that Brian Higgins may have been being less than truthful with you?
No.
Getting back to the Waterfall Bar and Grill, you were also aware that Brian Albert was at the Waterfall, correct?
At one point, yes, we learned that.
And you knew that Brian Albert and Brian Higgins were friends with each other. Is that right?
We learned that as well, yes.
You've already indicated that you did not seek Brian Higgins's phone records. I may have asked you this, and if I did, I apologize. Did you seek Brian Albert's phone records or an extraction from his phone?
No, we did not.
Did you look at the entirety of the waterfall video? Did you review the entirety of the waterfall video when you first obtained it? Or have you looked at it since?
I have at one point or another viewed the entire video, yes.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, this has already been marked as evidence, but I cannot write it. It's on my notes. Exhibit 22, I'm told.
Okay.
May we exhibit that for the, or present that for the jurors?
Yes.
And I'm asked to advance this to runtime 8:30 to about 11:08, so a couple of minutes with the court's permission.
Yes.
go ahead and play that. Can we pause it briefly, Mr. Wolk?
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Can you please, if you can,
Tell you, but from right here, right now, I cannot.
Sergeant, why don't we play this for a couple of seconds? And if you don't mind, if you get to a point where you recognize the person that you know is Brian Albert, could you just tell me to stop and I'll pause it?
Absolutely.
Let's go ahead and play it with the court's permission.
Sure.
Can you pause it?
Stop it.
Go ahead, Sergeant.
Brian Albert is the individual right there. Right there.
Can you describe what Brian Albert and, by the way, for the record, Your Honor, the witnesses indicated the person toward the left, right under the 2-9 on the chyron on top, the 29.
Yes.
Can you describe what you see the two individuals, Brian Albert and Brian Higgins, doing in this scene?
It looks like they are facing each other, possibly squaring off in a stance.
Can we go ahead and play this forward, please? Can we pause it? Sergeant, did you see either of the two men or both of them squaring off in what you would consider to be a fighting stance?
I guess it could be considered that. I would look more like roughhousing. It's a couple of buddies messing around.
Not suggesting they were actually fighting, but a fighting stance.
Yeah, no, they were not. They were not fighting. No.
Go ahead and play it. Can you pause it? Sergeant, do you happen to see in this shot, just for orientation, do you see my client, Ms. Reed?
I'm sorry. I was paying attention to the two gentlemen.
That's fair. That's kind of an unfair question. Could you, if we play this a few more seconds, could you look around, scan around, and tell me if you see someone that you believe is my client?
Yes, I will try.
Let's go ahead and play. Go ahead and pause it. Do you see anybody that looks like Ms. Reed?
Yes, I believe she's in top left. Top right corner of the frame, talking to Mr. O'Keefe and I believe two other gentlemen.
Long hair?
On your client?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. Let's go ahead and play this up to 11:08, please. Is that up to 11:08? Okay, thank you. We can take that one down briefly. This is, if we can have the lights, thank you. Sergeant, this is at the waterfall just before midnight on January 29th, 2022, correct? What you just saw.
That footage is from the waterfall just before midnight on 28th.
I'm sorry, my mistake. On the January 28th, 2022.
Correct.
Going into midnight, January 29th, 2022.
Yes, sir.
All right. This would be just minutes before everyone headed out of the waterfall and went back towards Fairview, correct?
Not everyone. The band didn't go to the Fairview.
Well, obviously, I'm not talking about the band or the bartenders. I'm talking about Brian Albert, Brian Higgins, Jen McCabe, Matt McCabe, John O'Keefe, Karen Reed, those folks. Correct?
It's before some of those individuals left the bar and headed to 34 Fairview.
If we could push to runtime 16:35, 17:22, while you're queuing that up, did you see, after I asked you the initial time about the stance that the two men were taking, Brian Albert and Brian Higgins, did you see them continue to take what could be reasonably described as a fighting stance toward each other, even in jest?
They were squaring off and roughhousing, yeah.
Okay, what does squaring off mean?
Facing an opponent in like wrestling or a martial art, I guess.
Hands up?
Yes, squaring off, yeah.
You are former military
Yes,
and current law enforcement.
yes.
Is hand-to-hand fighting taught in both military and paramilitary organizations like law enforcement?
I had hand-to-hand combat training in the Marine Corps. I had defensive tactics in law enforcement capacity in the Marine Corps, federal, local, and state academies.
Are you aware that Brian Albert is former military?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
I am aware that Brian Albert is former military.
And Brian Albert was also a Boston police officer.
I am aware of that as well, yes.
Are you aware that Brian Higgins was former military and a combat veteran?
Now I am, yes.
And are you aware that Brian Higgins, at the time this was taken, this video was taken, was also a federal law enforcement agent?
I was aware, yes, I was,
Okay.
yeah.
If we can go ahead and run at 16:35 to 17:22 with the court's permission.
Okay.
If you can pause it. Can you describe for the jurors what you see Brian Albert and Brian Higgins doing in this footage?
Based on my understanding, it looks like he's giving him the Heimlich maneuver or
As if
abdominal thrust, I guess. I don't know what he's doing.
Brian Albert's got his hands around Brian Higgins, correct?
That's what it looks like from here. I have no idea what he's doing.
Could it be described as wrestling or grappling?
I guess, yeah.
Okay, let's go ahead and play it. Thank you. If we can take that down. During the course of reviewing this video, or the entirety of the video, not just the clips that you just reviewed, did you see where John O'Keefe was, generally speaking, relative to Brian Higgins and Brian Albert?
throughout the entire time.
He wasn't standing still, I understand that, but generally, was he standing with them or was he closer to the bar in the back of the video?
I believe after Mr. O'Keefe arrived and embraced a few people with hugs, I guess if I had to estimate, most of the time he was on the other side of the table, which would be closest to the bar area.
And after you saw Mr. O'Keefe walk in and greet everybody with salutations, did you ever see him interacting with Brian Higgins and Brian Albert throughout the evening again on this video?
On this video, I did not know.
I'd like to play runtime, one more clip, Your Honor, runtime 1915 to 1957, about 45 or 50 seconds. Can you pause it? Just to orient the jurors, can you see any individuals that you earlier described, Brian Higgins, Brian Albert, John O'Keefe, Karen Reed, any of those individuals in this clip as yet? Or do we need to play it a little further?
I would need you to play it a little bit further, please.
Is it possible, with the court's permission, to zoom in on the upper portion of the video?
Okay.
You could center that just a little bit toward the right. Other way. There we go. Thank you. And if we could go ahead and play that from 1915 to about 1957. Pause it. Do you recognize the three people center screen now?
I really can't make it out. I would have to be assuming,
I don't want you to assume.
guessing. I can't make it out
Okay, let's
to
play,
identify each individual. If
let's
you
play it forward if we can. One more time. At this point, go ahead and pause it. At this point, can you make out any individuals?
Yes.
Okay.
At this point, I can say that that looks like Brian Higgins in the middle of the three gentlemen.
What is he wearing?
It looks like a hooded sweatshirt.
Okay. And the person to his, sorry, let's do it from your perspective or the juror's perspective. The person to the left of Brian Higgins.
I believe that's Brian Albert.
And the person to the right of Brian Higgins.
To the right from my perspective.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I believe that's Chris Albert, but I'm not positive. I'm
Okay,
not
let's go ahead and
positive.
play it. Stop. Did you see Brian Higgins just do something?
I was not paying attention to his gesture. We have to replay that, please.
Does it appear he's looking a particular direction?
He is looking in a particular direction based on that frame, yes.
Is that toward the bar area?
It's in that direction. I don't know exactly where he's looking, whether he's looking at the bar, to the right of the bar. I can't tell from this.
Okay, okay. And John O'Keefe, you indicated earlier that John O'Keefe, that's where you saw him most of the video, toward the bar area, to the right of the bar.
If you scroll to push the screen to the right, I can tell you where Mr. O'Keefe is.
With the court's permission.
Yes.
Do you see Mr. O'Keefe in that group of people?
I cannot make him out. Could you play the video? Maybe he is behind an individual.
Let's go back to, if with the court's permission, I'd like to go back to the full video, and let's play it from here. Pause it. Could you see what was happening with Brian Higgins?
He was gesturing to someone.
Do you know
I was trying to see Mr. O'Keefe. We were talking about Mr. O'Keefe, so
Understood.
I apologize.
Understood. With the court's permission, could I play the video one more time with it focused on the other side of the bar?
Okay.
Thank you. Last time.
Can you tell me who to focus on, please,
Yes.
so I'm not looking for the wrong person?
Sure.
Thank you.
Pause it. Do you see John O'Keefe there?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Can you point to where he is for the jurors, please, on both televisions?
Mr. O'Keefe is right there wearing the sweatshirt, multi-tone gray sweatshirt with the hood on it and his hat.
And
And
on the
this
other TV?
right
Okay.
there. He's appears to be at the bar paying the bill.
Okay. With this perspective, could we just go ahead and play that, the 30 or 45 seconds one more time? And then please focus on Mr. O'Keefe. Pause it. Do you see where Mr. O'Keefe is looking at this point?
Yes.
Where is he looking? What direction?
Well, from this vantage point, it looks like he's looking to the left on the screen at the individual he's appears to be conversing with.
Okay, go ahead and play it. Pause it. And what about now?
Same individual.
Okay.
He's still engaged in conversation.
Pause it. And what about now?
He's taking a sip of beer
Right. Which direction is he looking?
in the same direction.
Okay. Go ahead and play it. And go ahead and pause it. We could go back out to the full screen. At this point, does it appear in the video that Brian Higgins, Brian Albert, Chris Albert have all left the bar?
There's someone standing across the table from Mr. O'Keefe to his rear. I don't know who that is, so I can't testify to that. The others have left.
Given this perspective, now that we've seen both of them zoomed, do you have an opinion as to whether or not it appeared that Mr. Higgins was gesturing toward John O'Keefe just before he left the bar?
Given this perspective, he might have been. I don't know who he was gesturing at.
Okay. We can have the lights up. We'll take that down. I want to change gears for a second. Let me ask one more series of questions, if I could, Sergeant. What we've just seen was literally Brian Albert, Brian Higgins leaving Waterfall to go to a different location. What was the location they were headed to, based on your investigation?
They were heading to 34 Ferry Road.
And shortly thereafter, who else followed to go over to 34 Fairview?
I'm sorry, you said Chris Albert?
No, I didn't.
No, you didn't. Okay.
Nope.
Brian Albert, Brian Higgins, they went to 34 Fairview, and then Mr. O'Keefe also traveled there.
Thank you. I want to shift gears, if I could, to another video. Did you review certain ring videos, specifically relative to One Meadows, the outdoor ring video servicing the carport area?
Yes, I have reviewed those videos.
If we could, Your Honor. Just a moment. This has previously been marked as 12A. If we could with the court's permission, zoom in on the Chevy Traverse in the upper left-hand, the vehicle in the upper left-hand corner of the video?
Okay.
Pause it. Just go ahead and zoom in on the upper left-hand corner. Okay, go ahead and play. Pause. Did you see anything happen with the left rear tire of the other car in the driveway?
Which car are you talking about?
The highlighted portion, the parked car, which is the left rear tire that's zoomed in on.
I wasn't paying attention to the tire. Can you play it again, please?
With the court's permission?
Okay.
Let's try that one more time. Pause it. Okay, you can take that down. Did you see anything happen with that left rear tire of the Chevy Traverse?
Based on that video, it appears there might have been movement there.
Last year, and you've seen this video several times, correct?
I have.
You saw it during the course of your investigation, not just in the course of proceedings, correct?
Right.
Last year, you indicated that you observed the vehicle, Miss Reed's vehicle, come near Mr. O'Keefe's car. Which one in that video was Mr. O'Keefe's car?
The Chevy Traverse.
And that would be the car that was parked and static, not moving, correct?
Correct.
Having seen this, do you still believe that the SUV came near the Chevy Traverse, or do you believe it struck the Chevy Traverse?
With the clarity of that video, there is a lot of movement in the shot. Not with great certainty. It appeared that there was movement of the tire, but I cannot say with 100% certainty that there was movement.
You can't say with 100% certainty that that tire literally shifted and wiggled upon some sort of an impact.
Based on the video, there appeared to have been movement.
Okay. You had this video for the first 3 years of your investigation. You had this video very early on, correct?
That's correct.
And for the first several years of your investigation, did you either deny, well, let me ask it this way. Was it your assessment that the SUV did not contact that Chevy Traverse?
My assessment with the totality of it all was that based on the video, there was no damage that occurred to either vehicle at that point in time.
That wasn't my question, Sergeant. My question was your assessment that there was no contact between the two vehicles? Is that what you assessed during the course of your investigation?
I did not assess that there was no contact, no.
Even as recently as last year, you testified in another proceeding that the SUV came close to the Chevy Traverse, right?
Yes, I said there's a lot of movement in that shot. It's difficult to tell if there was more for me to observe and push that certainty level up. I would have testified differently.
As you've seen the video enhanced, zoomed in on, do you wish to amend that testimony from last year?
Ask it differently.
Sure. Given what you've just seen, what is your testimony now about whether or not that SUV struck the Chevy Traverse?
There is movement of the tire. There is
There's
movement.
movement of the tire. Could be an earthquake, could be someone standing there pushing the car. I'm asking you, based on what you just saw in this video, do you believe that the SUV struck the Chevy Traverse?
Logically speaking, the two vehicles had to have come into contact for the tire to move.
They had to have collided, correct?
At a slow speed, yes.
Which area of the SUV collided with the Chevy Traverse? The front, the rear?
It appears from the video it's the right rear area of the Lexus SUV that comes into contact with the Traverse.
What time was this video taken?
I believe that is at 5:07 a.m., if I'm not mistaken.
Thank you, Sergeant. I want to change gears again, if I could, and ask you about a dog. You're aware that the Alberts, Nicole Albert, Brian Albert, had a dog that they named Chloe on on January 28th, 29th of 2022, correct?
Objection.
I'll allow the question. Were you aware of that?
At what point in time, sir?
January 28th, 29th, that area.
Was I aware that they owned a dog on January 28th or 29th?
No. Are you aware now that on January 28th or 29th, they owned a dog? There was a dog in the house.
Now I am aware, yes.
Okay. During the course of your investigation, you learned that, correct?
Yes.
During the course of your investigation, did you also become aware that the Alberts got rid of their family dog?
Objection.
I'm going to see you at sidebar on this, please.
Sure.
Oh boy. So, okay. Well, they're going to go there because there is the video that actually shows that she backed up into the Traverse. But their own testimony from last trial, from their own witnesses, actually said it didn't hit hard enough to cause the damage that was seen on the taillight. However, I think what speaks most loudly to me and hopefully to the jury is the missing videos before. Like, she got home sometime after midnight, but there's no video of that. So there's no way to see that that's when the taillight was busted, But we do know that the taillight was busted before police got to the property or saw the vehicle. So we do know that, Michael Proctor didn't bust the taillight and plant the taillight evidence. The taillight was busted prior. And we also know that in the video we just saw, if it was busted enough for missing pieces to be there, where are they? Because they're surely not on the ground when she backs away from the car, when she pulls away from the Traverse. There's nothing there on the ground. And the taillight is well broken. Yeah, all of this about the dog is very unsettling to me. Like, have the jury been told that the missing video for that view yet? Not yet. The children, the niece and nephew of John O'Keefe are scheduled to testify. And also the Commonwealth filed motions for the Ring Video Company, the Ring Cam. The officer of records will be testifying. And I do believe it's about the deletions or about the process of deletions and the record keeping for that. It is obvious that there's missing video because the timeline surely shows it. We know that Carrie Roberts and Jen McCabe and Karen Reed arrived at John O'Keefe's house at a certain time. We see the video. However, we don't have any video of when they left. That's not there. Does the Ring camera just choose when it's not going to record? I thought it recorded whenever there was motion. So, there are a lot of questions. There's also why when she showed up back to the house, there's no Ring cam video. When she showed up back at the house, she says she was at the house. The niece says she was at the house after the incident, and then she says she left from the house to go to meet Carrie Roberts. The vehicle's going to show that she went there. Well, where's the ring cam video? I don't know. All of this about the dog is annoying, though, because like I know that they want to think that that is a dog bites on his arm or whatever, or scratches. I would like to remind everyone that that wasn't a theory until their expert witness reached out to them because she saw a photo of it and she thought so. I think the whole thing's very convoluted. I do. I have my doubts. I do have questions as to how those injuries could have occurred. I don't think we're ever really going to know if there's scrapings from the glass or if the plastic did it, or if somehow I'm thinking he got caught somehow and got scraped up trying to untangle himself. I'm not sure. I'm really not. There's no picture in my mind that tells me how it happened yet, and I think that the jury might feel the same way. That's true. That is true. Liam just said in the side chat that the only person who could have or would have a reason to delete those videos are KR. Exactly. And she did have access. She did go up into that room, and she was at that house unattended to delete at least her arrival one. And I'm sure that the ring video records will be able to say when things were deleted, which will make it a little clearer on the possibility of who. The thought that the children could have got up and did it is ridiculous. And they both testified they had no access to it anyway. Someone did send me a message that said that in the first trial, when the testimony of the ring cam records came up, that it did show a deletion pattern and something about a password being changed and then deleted. Kind of like Lori Vallow did with Charles Vallow's insurance, like changed the password to access the account and everything when she was trying to get information. And then Charles Vallow found out about it. That was very, very odd. And the one thing that I'm learning is that we leave footprints everywhere. We leave digital footprints all over this planet of every single thing that we do. And sometimes they even think they know what we're thinking. Because if you think you're going to get away with anything in this day and age, you better think twice. Because you have to be 20,000 steps ahead of the technology, and that's almost impossible. That's almost impossible. I don't think we're going to be finished with Sergeant Bukhenik today. I think that the prosecution, the Commonwealth, has a lot to redirect on to clarify some issues in regards to the investigation into some of the insinuations that are made. I hope that they do it honestly and directly, and especially just shoring up the timeline for the jury again. That's a huge problem. The jury just can't trust their gut. I know. I have a theory about those cuts, but it doesn't include a dog attack. Jackson should literally play more of that clip, because if you play the clip of the pulling away out of the driveway, you can literally see on John O'Keefe's vehicle where the bumpers hit. I really hope the CW brings it up. I think they will. I think they already have talked about it, and they've played this video. And they did say like exactly what I said. Do you see any plastic on the ground? No. Do you see a big chunk of plastic missing from the light in the pulling away of this vehicle? Yup. Yeah, it was quite obvious. Yeah, they did. I hope they do it again. And I think they will now that they've opened the door again for it to be readdressed. I mean, there's, you know, in all fairness to the defense, there's always two interpretations of every piece of evidence, of every statement, and of every angle on defense or Commonwealth. So, they get their fair shot at trying to explain it too. I'm just finding theirs a little bit more ridiculous. And although I will admit quite willingly that there are problems with this investigation, serious issues, plenty for the defense to point out. But then when they put on top of it all of this third-party culprit kind of extravaganza, it kind of just waters it down for me. It loses a lot of probability. It does. I am wondering how the Commonwealth can bring in the outside investigations that cleared the investigation from any serious wrongdoing, that they were sloppy, but not intentionally obscuring. We're back.
I think I forgot where I left off. May I, Your Honor? Thank you. Sergeant, at some point during the course of your investigation, did you learn that the Albert family had gotten rid of the dog named Chloe?
We learned that they no longer cared for the dog. I don't know if get rid of is accurate.
Well, they don't have it anymore, right?
Yes.
Okay, so what would you call it?
Giving it up for adoption, I guess. I don't know. I'm not a pet owner.
What if they didn't give it up for adoption?
I'm sorry?
What if they didn't give it up for adoption?
Rehomed, I guess.
Okay. So it's no longer with them, right?
Correct. They no longer own the dog.
Okay, so they got rid of it. It's like you get rid of a car, right? Right?
You can get rid of a car, yeah.
Okay. And you can get rid of a dog. That's all I'm asking.
Yes, you can get rid of a dog, yes.
Okay. At some point during the course of your investigation, did you find out that the Albert family got rid of Chloe?
We learned that they no longer owned Chloe, yes.
Okay. When did you learn that?
I cannot tell you exactly. I can tell you when we looked into it officially.
When did you look into it officially?
I traveled to the dog's home and assisted with identifying the dog and investigating that animal.
Okay. What documentation did you use to identify that animal?
It was veterinary records.
I want to stop you there. Veterinary records from whom? From the Albert family? When they,
I did not get any veterinary records from the Albert family.
the veterinary records that you did get were veterinary records that had been utilized with the Albert name? Where were these veterinary records?
The veterinary records were with the vet that's caring for the dog and also owns the dog now.
Okay.
And those records also had been dated prior to when the dog was owned by the Alberts.
Okay. So other than some veterinary records that, and by the way, the dog's not even named Chloe, correct?
The new owners renamed the dog, yes.
Cora?
That's correct. Yes.
And the new owners did not get that dog from Brian and Nicole Albert, did they?
No, they did not.
They got it from a separate person. Is that right?
That is correct.
Separate person named Riley?
That's her last name, yes.
And did this person Riley have any records showing purchase of Chloe or adoption of Chloe from the Alberts?
No.
You did write a report about the newest owner of this animal, this dog, correct?
I documented my trip to the location and the steps I took and services I provided in the investigation.
And in that report, you omitted the name of the new owner.
I'm not sure.
Did you omit the location of where you actually came in contact with this animal?
You're going to have to show me my report. I don't remember.
Yes.
Okay, I apologize about that.
No problem.
I'm the one slowing us down just a little bit. May I approach?
Yes.
Did this, reviewing your report, refresh your recollection as to whether or not the new owner's identifying information is in this report?
It did.
And is that information in the report?
No, it is not.
You've got, there are some veterinary records that you supplied along with your report, correct?
Yes.
That you gathered?
I'm sorry, what was
That
it?
you gathered along while you were doing?
Yes, yes.
May I approach?
Yes.
Thank you.
If you'll take a look at those 4 documents. Do those appear to be the veterinary records that you gathered related to this animal?
Yes, it does.
Do any of those records, any of the veterinary records, the 4 pages that you're holding, even include the name Cora or the name of the new owner?
I browsed through it, and no, it does not appear that Cora or the new owner are included in any of these 4 pages.
May I approach?
Yes.
You don't have any transfer records for Chloe, correct?
All the records that are provided by the owner.
I'm going to go through a series of questions, Sergeant. If you can answer it yes or no, that might make it go a little faster. You don't have any transfer records, correct?
I would know what it looks like. That's why it's even quicker me telling you that that's all the records that I have.
Okay. I want an answer to my question. You
Okay.
don't have any transfer records.
I don't know what a transfer record would look like, so
the
I
answer
can't.
is no.
I don't know.
Okay. You don't have any rehoming records.
I don't know.
You don't have any purchase records.
I don't know.
The only records you do have are those 4 pages of veterinary records that don't have the name Cora and don't have the new owner's name. Correct?
That's correct.
You would agree, shifting gears for a second, that timely report writing obviously is an important aspect of any investigation, correct?
It is important, but we can only write reports as feasibly and possibly we're capable of doing. Sometimes investigations are rapid, so you can't write a report. You take notes, and some time goes by before you actually document the information on an official report. The information's there, it's gathered, it's maintained by the investigator, it's shared, it's acted on at times, but the official reports might take some time to write.
So obviously, if you're, like you said, things are fast moving in an investigation. It might be that you interview a witness on a Tuesday, you're super busy on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It might be Friday before you can even sit down and draft a report about that interview that you did on Tuesday, correct?
Different circumstances dictate differently.
That would be completely normal.
Yes, it is.
But most of the time, it's best practices, and you're taught, and you teach your subordinates that it's best practices to reduce to writing and memorialize a report as close in time to the event in question that's being memorialized as you can, right? Obviously, perfect world.
In a perfect world, we'd write it as it's happening.
Are you aware that more than 20 official police reports in this case were not recorded for more than 100 days from the time that the event in question was done, was being memorialized?
I did not know the exact date and delay.
Are you aware that there are 11 reports that are more than 300 days from the time of the event that was being memorialized?
I was not aware, no.
Are you aware that there are 3 reports that are more than 400 days from the time of the event that was being memorialized?
I am not aware, no.
Are you aware that there are 4 reports that are more than 500 days from the time of the event that's being memorialized?
I am not aware, no.
Are you aware that the longest delay of any report in this investigation was 581 days?
I am not aware of that, no.
You became aware early on in your investigation of 2 individuals named Ricky D'Antano and Heather Maxson, correct?
They are witnesses, yes.
Both Ricky D'Antano and Heather Maxson, you learned, were outside 34 Fairview in the early morning hours of January 29th, correct?
We did learn within our investigation at some point, yes.
And you learned, Sergeant, very early on in that investigation because you interviewed Ryan Nagel in February of 2022, which is just days after the event, correct?
I'm not sure of the exact date.
Obviously, as you just said, you became aware that Ricky D'Antano and Heather Maxson were witnesses in your homicide investigation, important witnesses, you'd agree, correct?
They were witnesses.
You learned that they arrived at the house at 34 Fairview sometime after Karen Reed and John O'Keefe arrived and pulled up behind their parked SUV, correct?
Objection.
I'm going to allow that.
Can you repeat that, please?
Sure, you learned that where they fit into the investigative puzzle is that they pulled up behind Karen Reed's SUV when Karen Reed and John O'Keefe arrived at 34 Fairview. They pulled up sometime after that and pulled up right behind them, correct?
That's not correct.
What is not correct about that?
They arrived simultaneously. Karen Reed took a right onto Fairview. They yielded to them and followed towards 34 Fairview, stopping at the driveway as Karen Reed proceeded further up.
Did you listen to the testimony in this case up to this point?
No.
There's a sequestration order, correct? Correct?
Yes, yes.
Which means you can't listen to the testimony of witnesses, eyewitnesses who are testifying in front of these jurors.
Correct. Yes.
You don't know how witnesses have testified from that witness box in front of these jurors, correct?
I have no idea.
Okay. So your information is that they pulled up simultaneously, correct?
Is that what you just testified to?
That's my memory from what the interview produced.
You certainly knew that there were eyewitnesses to the condition and the location of Miss Reed's SUV, correct?
Yes, yes, from their interviews, yes.
And you also are aware that they would have been in a position to see the occupants of Miss Reed's SUV as they were behind it and then pulled around it, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you become aware that they were in a position behind the SUV and as they pull around it, they could still see the SUV?
Objection.
Sustained.
You knew what potential role they played in your investigation as eyewitnesses, correct? Generally?
When we interviewed them, when we learned of their existence, when we interviewed them, we collected information based on their recollection.
Okay. My question was, you're aware that they had a certain perspective as it relates to the SUV that night, early morning hours, right?
Based on their interviews, they had a perspective with the brake light being on constantly.
I'm not asking you what they said. I'm asking you if during the course of your investigation, you learned that Ricky D'Antonio and Heather Maxson had a perspective. They were eyewitnesses to certain things. As
Yes.
relative to the SUV, correct?
Yes.
You instructed your subordinate, Michael Proctor, to interview those witnesses in August of 2022, correct?
I'm not sure when they were interviewed. I don't have a memory of instructing him to go interview them.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you.
Can you take a look at that document and tell me if you, why don't you just tell me if that, whether or not that refreshes your recollection as to communications you had with Michael Proctor specifically? Thank you, Sergeant. Does that refresh your recollection as to a conversation, or I'm sorry, a communication that you had with Michael Proctor?
Unfortunately, it does not. I will take the document at face value. I do not have a memory of having these communications, but I will take the document if it's authentic and it is true and accurate that it took place. But I do not have a memory of sending these text messages.
May I approach them?
Yes.
Also, my name's misspelled in there. Is that from the extraction, or where is that from?
Couldn't tell you. Wasn't me.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I can't take credit for that. Thanks. If your memory is not refreshed about that particular communication, do you remember in general communicating with Michael Proctor about interviewing Ricky D'Antonio and Heather Maxson?
I do not know. I'm sorry.
Would that have been something that you would have found important relatively early on in the investigation? These are eyewitnesses. Let's get them interviewed.
Yes, it is. It is important to interview anyone that's an eyewitness. Sometimes it takes longer because. Are you listening? I'm sorry.
Thanks.
You asked the question. I just wanted to answer.
I know the answers to my own questions. Go ahead.
Okay. So while we want to interview every eyewitness, sometimes an important fact is already detailed and witnessed by another witness. So in this situation, we had already interviewed one of the occupants, the one that was driving, the one that had the observed the events taking place. And we asked him if we were going to talk to the other two, would they have the same recollection, observations? Did they leave the vehicle to go in the house at all? Anything like that? Anything different? So that's...
Okay, so it would be important, obviously, to interview witnesses in a timely manner.
In some instances, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Do you remember when Trooper Proctor actually interviewed Ricky D'Antonio and, I'm sorry, when Michael Proctor interviewed Ricky D'Antonio and Heather Maxson?
I do not have a memory of that, no. I'm sure a report would indicate when.
May I approach you?
Yes.
I may have misspoken. Sergeant, take a look at that. I thought that was a report from somebody else. It's a report from you, actually. Tell me if that refreshes your recollection as to when Ricky D'Antonio was actually interviewed.
Yes, this report, authored by me, was states that on Saturday, September 2nd, he was interviewed.
What year?
2023.
So that would have been a year and a half later, correct?
Yes.
Do you believe that's a timely report, or rather a timely interview for an eyewitness, the gravity of which is described in your report?
We again, perfect ideal world scenario, it would be quicker.
So that would be, no excuses, I'm not going to bars, but that would be untimely, correct? Year and a half later.
We do the best we can.
You indicated that your memory was that the cars arrived simultaneously. That's a interview with Ricky D'Antonio. You see the highlighted portion?
I see it.
Ricky D'Antonio actually told you the car was
Objection.
parked, correct?
Objection.
The objection sustained.
Your Honor, may we approach with them?
Yes, can I see that, please?
I do believe that this sidebar is going to be the one where she says, "That's it for the day." Like, you know, and watching the socials and listening to some of the YouTube lawyers who are actually saying that, on the one hand, we're all getting exasperated at how this is going nowhere. But when you look at it from their perspective as lawyers, they're saying this one witness, Sergeant Bukhenik, actually was a dual purpose witness for both the Commonwealth and the defense in just this one situation. It allowed the Commonwealth to discuss everything that Proctor found out without bringing Proctor in, so that Proctor wasn't cross-examined by the defense to look even worse. So they were allowed to bring in the issue, bring in all the evidence, bring in the investigation, talk about some of the failures of the investigation, but bring another person in, this sergeant, to actually bring all of that to light and lay out the timeline and how things happened and the investigation as a whole. And on the flip side of that coin, for the defense, this one witness is allowing the defense to bring in their whole third-party culprit scenario. We've heard it all now, right? We heard exactly what they think happened without having to bring in Brian Albert or Brian Higgins, who would obviously be hostile witnesses since they're being accused by the defense. Nobody else but the defense. It actually gets to lay it all out in front of the jury. So in that case, I would have to agree with some of these YouTube lawyers who are pointing that out, that is actually excellent trial strategy on both sides.
May I, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. Isn't it true that when you interviewed Ricky D'Antonio, he indicated that upon their arrival at home, at the home, 34 Fairview, quote, a dark-colored SUV was parked in front of the home facing up towards Chapman Street. That's what he said, correct?
That's what the report indicates for Ricky's interview, yes.
And in fact, you wrote this report based on Ricky's interview.
I wrote that report, yes.
Thank you. If I may have just a moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
Your Honor, I'm just about to start.
Why don't we come to sidebar now from?
Sure.
What is this now? I'm losing count of the sidebars. Are we on 7 already? Can we be on 7, I think? I'm not sure. 9 already, Couch? Wow, I did lose couch. I did lose count, Couch. Sorry. You can tell I'm getting tired. Long day. Like, I don't know how much I'll be talking after they wrap it up today, people. I'm sorry. I will come on a little earlier so we can discuss, but I have to tell you, I'm wiped. I am barely holding my head up at this point. Although now that I'm kind of looking at it as the whole picture. Oh, I've had plenty of coffee. I'm just telling you, the boredom factor has outweighed the caffeine. But, I will give it to this. The defense got their whole third-party culture scenario all laid out here for the jury already with this one witness. I know we're not getting the rebuttal today. That's a ton of sidebars. We have a record of, I think it's was it 13, Couch? It was either 11 or 13. It does, doesn't it, Couch? And I have to stream tomorrow night. One of my favorites, like the 50th Law with MC Record. Anybody that wants to continue, we're on chapter 6. It'll be 6 p.m. Eastern Standard tomorrow. Yeah, 13 is the record, right? So, but since they haven't been starting with a sidebar the last 2 days, I'm surprised we got up to 9. But that's pretty far. I kind of agree with you there, Liam. Liam is stating that for the third-party culprit story to work, Karen Reed would have to be a part of it because, after all, it would be done in her name, because she's all that, Higgins wants to be with her, and he has to eliminate John, or there has to be an altercation with John because John finds out about it or something. But she would have to instigate him being in there alone. Is that why she stayed in the car? I don't know, but that's what they're going to have to say. That's why she stayed in the car. I think it's more than likely that if John did find out about Higgins, they fought in the car and he told her he was going in without her, which would account for most of the rage. And the calling him a pervert, because maybe he said something very unkind to her, like, I only talked to a woman in the lobby that knew my sister. You actually banged my friend. I mean, possible. Who knows? I don't really think he would talk like that, though. He seemed quite patient. Well, yeah, I'm sounding a little strained there, Couch. I'm looking forward.
Especially as this moves along, I think it becomes more important for me to talk to the lawyers about scheduling to give you some idea on how we're doing. I can tell you that everybody's in agreement that we are right on schedule. So we're not behind schedule. Optimistically, maybe we're still a little bit ahead, but we are on schedule for today's purposes. Monday, I'm going to ask you all to come in at 10. So we'll start at 10 o'clock on Monday, and we will go a full day Monday. We'll leave every day next week. So we will see you next week. Those same cautions.
So they're done.
Please do not discuss this case with anyone. Don't do any independent research or investigation into this case. If you happen to see, hear, or read anything about this case, please disregard it and let us know. Be very careful with your social media use, and we'll see you Monday at 10.
Okay, I'm going to leave it up while the jury leaves because I have a
Goodbye.
feeling, why are we coming in a half an hour later? Does she need to discuss things with the attorneys? Are they going to argue with something? Are there going to be oral arguments on Monday morning? Like, I'm confused. Yeah. Yes, you know what, Couch, he did seem kind of laid back. He seemed like the type to be, not to be mad, but just to be disappointed. He was already pulling away. We saw that in text messages. He was always getting tired of the routine. Oh, here she comes.
Court's in session, please be seated.
All right, so Monday we'll start with the jury at 10. If you need me before 10, please let people know so that we can deal with anything we can beforehand. I'll be here before 10. So, all right, we'll see you on
Thank you,
Monday.
Your Honor.
Thank you.
Court, all rise.
Okay, that wasn't that bad. Okay, so we don't have to be here early. Unless it starts early. I'll set it up for whenever it's going to start. I'll set it up for 9, and then I won't start until 10 unless they start for 10. It'll just go late. Sound reasonable, everyone? It does to me. But on that, I'll know that there's probably a lot to talk about based on what happened today. But I don't think any of us are in any frame of mind to do it. I mean, my brain's mush right now. So let's just meet again on Monday. Hopefully I will see some of you over the weekend with some of the things that we're going to be doing. We're doing the 50th Law Saturday at 6 p.m. But on Sunday, I'm very excited to be doing Black Mirror with Culture Cats for episode 2, Verrez-moi, which is a very strange episode, and I'm really happy to be going over it all with you. Not used to streaming that early in the morning when it's not a trial, but for cats, hey, we do what we got to do. It should be quite entertaining. If you can't be there live in the chat, I hope you'll catch the replay. On that, have a great night, everybody. Are you done? Yeah, Mindy, my voice can't take it. I can't take it. Like, I just can't take it. And the feed just quit. So I'm out of here, everybody. Don't forget to do the YouTube things. Give me a little help with the algorithm. I could use some comments on the videos. I could use some likes and some shares. Everything helps. I hope to see you all soon. Thanks again for keeping me company. And Monday we'll be here, same place, not exactly the same time. Yeah. But we'll be doing other stuff besides trial over the weekend. See you later.